Good evening, and welcome to Nox Historia. Tonight, we travel to the world of Majapahit, Java. Put the day down where you are lying. It is finished, and it does not need you anymore. Let your jaw come unclenched. Let your hands fall open. Let the weight of you sink another inch into the bed. Somewhere a long way from this room, the air is warm and heavy, and smells of cut rice straw and coconut oil, and the faint sweet smoke of a cooking fire, and the light is going the color of apricot flesh across a wide green plain. We will walk into that evening slowly. Nothing here will hurry you. Nothing here will ask you to keep up. We are going to the island of Java, to a place its people call Trowulan, on the flat, black-soiled country where the Brantas river spreads out towards the northern sea. The year is somewhere near 1400. This is the capital of Majapahit, the greatest power in the islands of Southeast Asia, and one of the richest cities anywhere on earth in its century. Its most celebrated king, Hayam Wuruk, reigned from 1350 until 1389, and the people walking home tonight speak of his years the way people speak of one long, good summer a little while ago. And here is something most people never learn. Majapahit is usually described as a Hindu-Buddhist empire, and so it was. Its kings honored Shiva and honored the Buddha, often on the same day, in the same breath. But dig into the soil of this capital, and you come upon a small burial ground the Javanese call Trowulan, its headstones carved in the local manner, in the local stone, and cut with Arabic script. Most of them are dated between about 1350 and 1478. Muslim families were living here, inside the royal city, at the very height of the empire, not afterwards, during. The neat version of the story, in which Islam arrives in Java only once Majapahit has faded away, is a tidy story, and the stones quietly disagree with it. You do not need to remember any of this. If you happen to fall asleep, that is exactly what this is for. So, we come in over the rice country in the last hour of light. The plain runs flat and green and impossibly wide, and it is cut into thousands of small bright squares, each one held by a low earth wall, each one holding its own thin sheet of water that has gone silver and then pink and now a deep still gray. Palms stand in loose lines along the field edges. Away to the south, the volcanoes are simplifying themselves into blue paper shapes against the sky, and one of them, low and many-peaked, is Pandanus, a mountain these people hold sacred and climb to leave offerings on. The heat of the day is letting go of the ground. Great fruit bats come out over the palm tops in long, unhurried arcs, and the cicadas start up in the trees, that dry, endless ringing that will keep on all night and that nobody here has ever thought worth mentioning. Look at the fields a moment longer, because they explain the whole city. This soil is volcanic, refreshed for thousands of years by ash falling out of those blue mountains, and it is astonishingly generous. And the water is managed field by field with real care. Each plot is leveled flat and banked so that water let in at one corner stands evenly across it whole, and when it has done its work there, it is let quietly down into the next field below. Nothing here is left to the rain alone. There are men whose entire office is the dividing of water between one landholder and another, and their decisions matter more than almost anything else a village argues about. The result is a thing that astonished visiting foreigners.
In this country, the rice is harvested twice a year, 2 crops from the same ground every year, reliably. That surplus is what pays for everything you are about to see.
The city itself sits in the middle of all this, and it has been laid out with the same patience. Beneath your feet, running away in long, straight lines under the lanes, is a grid of canals, some for bringing water in, some for taking floodwater away in the wet months, all of them dug and banked and maintained. There are ponds and reservoirs everywhere. Archaeologists have traced some 30 of them across the site. The largest is a great rectangle walled in red brick, and the local name for it is Segaran, from Segara, the sea, because to a person standing at its edge, it seemed that big. It lies perfectly flat this evening, a long, dark mirror with the last of the sky laid on it. The dry season here runs 4 or 5 months without meaningful rain. A city of this size does not survive that by luck. It survives it by holding on to the wet season and spending it slowly. Now walk in among the walls. This is the part that surprises people who know the great stone cities of the mainland, because there is almost no stone here at all. The plain has no quarries worth the name. What it has is clay, magnificent clay, and so Majapahit built itself out of fired red brick, walls, gates, house platforms, drains, wells, the floors of the pavilions, all of it in that warm rust color that goes almost crimson in this light. Run your hand along a wall and feel for the mortar joints. You will struggle to find them. The bricks were rubbed face to face until they seated so exactly against one another that the seams nearly vanish and the wall reads as one solid mass. The lanes between them are narrow and swept. Here and there a gateway rises far above the roofline, one of them a tall roofed arch some 16 meters high, another split clean down the middle into 2 halves, with the path running between, near enough 15 meters tall. You pass under, and the brick still holds the day's heat and gives it back to your shoulder as you go by. The market is folding itself up for the night. It smells of ginger and turmeric and frying banana, and threaded through all of it, the dark clove smell that hangs over any Javanese port town. Those cloves came from small islands far to the east, in the Moluccas, and the nutmeg beside them from an even smaller group, the Brantas. And in this century, those are the only places on the whole earth where the 2 trees grow. Everything the world will later fight over passes through markets like this one first. Beside them, pepper, sandalwood, and the red-brown chips of sappanwood that dyers boil for crimson. Payment is being counted out in kepeng, Chinese copper coins with a square hole punched through the middle so they can be threaded on a cord and carried in loops. Around the year 1300, Majapahit's rulers let these coins become the ordinary money of the realm in place of gold and silver, and it was a shrewd move, because a market needs small change. Gold buys a field, copper buys a handful of salt fish and 3 duck eggs, and it is the handful of salt fish that makes a city work. From here, the road runs north to the sea, and this is a maritime empire before it is anything else. Tuban, Gresik, the anchorage at Surabaya, all of them a few days off, all of them full of foreign hulls waiting on the monsoon to turn. The river is a highway too. A copper plate inscribed in 1358 sets out the rules for the crossing places along the Brantas and the Solo, and it names 78 of them. One realm, 78 official ferries. Court poets of the period list 90-odd distant places as belonging to Majapahit, from Sumatra out towards New Guinea, and historians will spend a long time arguing about what that really meant.
The plain administration probably reached no further than eastern Java and Bali. The rest was trade and tribute and prestige, and the understanding that ships in these waters did well to be on good terms with Java.
Now turn in at a doorway. It is a low brick gateway in a brick wall, and it opens into a courtyard, which is how nearly every household here is arranged. Not one building, but a swept open yard with a few separate roofs around it. The platforms are brick, raised a foot or two above the ground, so the wet season runs past rather than through. The posts are timber, dark and smooth from handling. The roof above is thatch, deep and shaggy at the eaves. A Chinese visitor who came through Java a decade or so after tonight noted all of this: the thatched houses of ordinary people, the brick sheds where they kept their goods safe, and the king's own residence with its thick red brick walls and its 2 sets of gates. In the corner of the yard there is a brick-lined well with a worn wooden lid. A frangipani tree props its flowers on the swept earth, and nobody sweeps them up until morning. Come across the yard towards the hearth. It is a low clay stove built up against the wall of the cooking shelter, and it is down to its last work of the day. 2 lengths of wood pushed in from the sides, a bed of orange coals below, a blackened earthenware pot resting on top of it all. The pot is terracotta, like almost everything else in this house, and it has been used so often that the fire has drawn a soft grey bloom across its belly. Beside the stove, in a small dish, a coconut oil lamp is burning with a fat, steady yellow flame, and the smoke off it is sweet. Coconut oil is the light of this whole island. It is also the frying, and the hairdressing, and the medicine, and the thing you rub into a wooden handle to stop it splitting. The meal is set out on the platform on woven mats. Rice first, of course, heaped and steaming from the second harvest of the year. Around it, small dishes, greens cooked down with coconut, a little dried saltfish, tamarind, ginger, galangal, a pungent paste of fermented shrimp that will still be made in these villages 600 years from now. Everyone eats with the right hand, forming the rice into a small, neat ball with the fingers. A foreign guest at this table would notice that and write it down. If somebody arrives at the gate now, they will not be offered tea, they will be offered betel, a leaf, a slice of areca nut, a smear of lime paste, folded and handed over. That is the courtesy here, and the refusing of it would be the strange thing. Across the yard, in the last of the lamplight, somebody is still working. This household makes things out of clay, which in this city is close to being the family trade of everybody. On the bench there are terracotta figures, a small horseman, a seated man with a wonderfully sulky expression, a monkey, a whole little house complete with its roof. Some are pressed out of molds, some are worked by hand. The best of them have been burnished with a smooth stone until the red surface has a low glassy shine. And there, waiting, is a row of money boxes, fat, round, hollow clay animals with a slit cut in the back for the coins to go in, and no way of getting them out again except to break the thing. Many are made in the shape of a boar. The Javanese word for boar is celeng, and so the object is a celengan, which is still, today, the ordinary Indonesian word for a piggy bank. The word has outlived the empire by 600 years, and it is sitting on a bench in front of you, wet, not yet fired. Step out into the lane and go a little way to the shrine at the end of it. The candi are brick too, tapering upward in tiers, and they hold the day's warmth long after the ground has cooled. There is one out beyond the houses that will astonish people when they uncover it, entirely by accident in 1914. A sunken square basin set several meters below the level of the fields, with steps down into it, and a stepped tower at its heart, built as a model of the world mountain, Mahameru. Tonight there are flowers laid on the ledges, a few grains of rice, an oil lamp guttering low in a dish. Shiva is honored here, and the Buddha is honored here, and no one in the courtyard behind you finds that a contradiction. A poet of this very century, Mpu Tantular, wrote a line about those two truths being different and yet one, and that line will be lifted 600 years later onto the national emblem of Indonesia. It is worth saying how any of this is known to us, because it very nearly was not. In 1365, a Buddhist court poet named Mpu Papancha finished a long old Javanese poem in praise of his king, and he called it the Desavarna, the description of the districts, though the world will come to know it as the Nagara Kretagama. He wrote it the way everything was written here, scratched with an iron stylus into strips of dried palm leaf, then rubbed with soot to bring the letters up black, then bound between two boards. Palm leaf does not last in this climate. Insects find it, damp finds it. That poem survived as one single copy, carried east and kept safe in a palace library on the island of Lombok, where it sat for 5 centuries until a Dutch scholar found it there in 1894 and published it in 1902. It is in Jakarta now. Everything you have walked through this evening, the wards of the city, the water, the ceremonies, the names of the districts, comes to us through that one bundle of leaves, and through copper plates buried in fields, and through a Chinese interpreter named Ma Huan, who sailed with the great treasure fleets and wrote down what Java was like. Back in the courtyard, the evening is settling. The mats are rolled out. The last of the rice is covered against the ants. A grandmother is telling the children something at half volume, and they are only half listening. Somebody rinses a pot and sets it upside down to drain. A dog turns around 3 times on the warm brick and gives up. From a long way off, carried on air that barely moves, there is the sound of gongs and soft mallets at some other household's gathering, so distant that it is less a music than a slow breathing under the night, rising and falling and rising, and nobody stirs to listen. Now lie down. The mat is woven from split pandanus, cool and slightly ribbed against the skin, laid over a raised brick floor that gives back the day's heat all night long, which is exactly what you want when the dark air is cool. A folded cloth for a pillow, no shoes, no shutters, no need for either. The lamp is pinched out, and the smell of it hangs about for a moment and then goes. The roof above you is thatch and rafters, and the whole of it breathes a little in the small movements of the air. This is the deepest rest a body gets, warm, level, unhurried, with the day's work finished and the next day's work not yet begun. Go outside once more, quietly, before you settle. The courtyard is silver. The canals beyond the wall lie utterly flat and dark, not moving, holding a broken piece of moon and giving it back. And above you the stars near the equator come down further than you are used to, right down to the tops of the palms, standing in constellations no European traveler would recognize. A gecko calls from the wall in its clear, unbothered voice. The air is soft and full and smells of night flowers, and there is nothing in it that needs anything from you. The Javanese have a story about those mountains on the horizon,
They say the gods once found this island unbalanced and drifting, and lifted the great world mountain out of the land to the west, and carried it here, to weigh Java down and hold it steady, and that pieces broke away along the road, and each piece that fell became one of the mountains standing out there now. Whatever else it is a story about a place being deliberately settled and made firm and given rest. Trowulan is quiet ground today. The old city lies under several meters of river mud and volcanic ash, which is why it waited so long to be found. Above it there are villages and rice and a small museum by the edge of Sigaran, and some 300 little workshops where families still make red bricks out of the same clay, in the same shape, drying in the same sun. Indonesia has put the whole of it forward as a place the world should look after. And on quiet evenings, the plain out there looks very much as it looks tonight, with the water lying flat, and the light going, and people finishing their meals, and the whole soft weight of an ordinary night coming down over a city that once ran an ocean, as you, perhaps, are sleeping now. So let go of the last of it, whatever you are still holding. Sleep well, and when you are ready to travel again, Nox Historia will be waiting. Good night.